Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Exactly. You want that to actually block everything you do.
Finish them.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I don't see you, so you're lying. You're not. Yeah, now you're running. Okay, while we wait for Roche, well, let's go ahead and give another big round of applause for the top 4 teams at the 2017 Also, we just like to remind everyone in the audience to make sure your phones are put on silent so that you are not going to interrupt the debaters or so that we do not interrupt our ability to hear. And then, with no further ado, we'll go ahead and have the Prime Minister take us into their name. Here. Oh, can someone find that's not me? For me. What do you think? Okay. Alright, Duncan's got you all the time, okay? If for whatever reason you can't hear, just let us know.
There is no issue in the modern world that I can think of that is more stupid, more painful, and that causes more damage to people across the globe than the war on drugs. In opening government, we will take the bold stance. We say we're going to fully legalize all drugs in any country that currently fights any war against them. We want to use the funds that we're going to be transferring away to do things like needle exchange programs, addiction counseling, job placement and retraining for individuals who need a leg up to get back into society. What else are we going to do, though, to be clear? Because we say that the harms that accrued from the war on drugs do not stop in places like the United States. We're going to do massive transfers of cash and the guaranteeing of loans to help with infrastructure rebuilding in Latin American countries that we have screwed over for decades. This debate needs framing in order to be adjudicated in any fun way. We say that when it comes to reparations and the harms that you do against people at all as a government, that there's only one way that it's acceptable. It's if they deserve it. That's why we can put people in prison in the event that they have committed a crime. If we can show you that these individuals, people who are addicted to drugs, have not done anything wrong in and of themselves, we say that you, by harming them, by criminalizing them, by punishing them, and making their existence illegal, that harm is unjustified, and that you owe them something. But if the debate ends up coming down to a question of, sure, we'll just take and bite the harms that maybe we're not doing the right thing, but if the util weighs out, we say we'll win there as well. Let's begin. We say that the harms to these citizens are fundamentally unjustified. What do you criminalize when you have a war on drugs? We say you criminalize disease, you criminalize poverty, you criminalize genetics. Factors that disproportionately link you to a likelihood of becoming addicted to drugs. Things that are outside of your control, you had no input in, you did not choose this life. You could literally be born addicted to drugs, born into a household addicted to drugs, or have drugs marketed to you every day of your life. But furthermore, it's not just people who are addicted to that, but rather people who live in communities where they feel like their only economic opportunity, their only out, their only chance at life is to deal drugs, is to participate in an illicit economy that promises them something to help put bread on the table because the state has failed them, to protect their educational opportunities, to protect their job opportunities. We are exceptionally happy to prevent these coercive harms from accruing. Second, though, we say that even if you don't think that it's just arbitrary, that they are discriminatory. That is to say that these penalties, for example, in the United States, fall disproportionately on different groups. For example, mandatory minimums on drugs like crack are different from those than cocaine, for no discernible reason other than the fact that black people consume, on average, more crack than white people cocaine. But on top of that, it's not just the type of drug, and like if you want to take it out of the US context, it's how you use the drug, where you use the drug, whether or not you have property, whether you are inside or outside, that affects your likelihood to go to jail or to be arrested. It affects what kind of neighborhood you live in, how they are policed, whether you are in an antagonized relationship with them. All of these factors fall along racial lines ethnic lines, economic lines. We say it's discriminatory and that harm has been accrued in a horrible and disproportionate way. We say that the state is justified, no thank you, in punishing individuals only when they've done something of themselves wrong and taken an active action. We say that that has never happened. We say that even the first exposure to drugs is one that is in of itself coercive. We say that unless opening opposition and opposition bench in general can prove otherwise, they have no water in this debate. Recognize that at this point we have already won. That because these harms have been done unjustified, the state owes these people reparations. It owes them an ability to rebuild their lives. But let's say, no thank you, that you don't care about these people. You're an awful person, but fine, whatever. We say that even if, by the end of this debate, you are convinced that there's a reason to be fighting this war on drugs, that the third-party harms outside of your country, outside of the actual people who are consuming it, outweigh, and you should stop the war on drugs and work on making their lives better. What do we mean? The war on drugs dramatically increases the price of every single ounce of it. What does this look like? It has led to the ravaging of countries the south of our border. It means that economies are skewed completely out of whack and are producing essentially either limes or marijuana. We say that you're destroying the ability for people to have meaningful livelihoods as far as economic stability, but it gets so much worse than that. Recognize that Mexican farmers live as de facto prisoners under warlords, as gangs are able to receive massive control over the political and economic state of the immense regions of places like Mexico. We say that you create a marketplace for cartels on the opposition bets, because you have a nearly infinite quantity of wealth if you're able to kill enough of your competitors. If you're willing to fight hard enough and kill enough people who would otherwise be selling those drugs, you know that the payday is incomparable to anything else they can make in that country if they're able to get those drugs into the United States. Wow.
So when do you think you see worse gang violence? When there was enough money to go around, when they're fighting over a very finite amount of resources and living in poverty in entitlement countries?
Great. So recognize that as it stands, the money that goes towards these countries is not being dispersed evenly for economic growth in South America, right? It goes exclusively to those at the top of these cartels. What is the comparative? Massive cash transfers and loans help rebuild the economies of the countries that we have been screwing over for decades. We say that that form of economic growth is only possible on our side house. When you trap them in what are essentially agrarian economies, focusing exclusively on the production of either literal agricultural goods or what we say are goods that have a later stage of being drugs. Furthermore, we say, don't take my word for it. Colombia, El Salvador, Mexico have begged President Obama and presidents before him to end the war on drugs because they are incapable as a state of solving it on their own when the demand in a country like the United States is so high. We say we owe these countries a recompense for what we've done to them. But furthermore, we say you undermine national security in countries like the United States when you establish lines of smuggling in goods and people that are established over decades and decades with a massive profit incentive. We say that's bad. Listen, even if they want to make it the general utility within the state of the United States, we say on this we'll still win. Because we can tax these kinds of drugs, we have access to safety and quality assurance. That means if people are consuming drugs at the same rate on either side, we can have a greater rate on our side that at least they're consuming in a safe way where they know that they're not going to get fentanyl inside of their heroin that leads to the massive deaths we've seen across Appalachia. It means we can regulate consumption amounts to ensure that people don't end up overdosing. It means that furthermore, on a utilitarian calculus, that revitalizing the Latin American economy is good for the United States, it's good for trade, it's good for economic competitiveness in the region. For so many reasons, I am incredibly proud to propose.
Now that the opposition is going to open up the opposite side of the debate. Here,
A few huge problems with the previous speech that probably knocked them out of this round immediately. First of all, he tells us that massive demand exists in the United States and that drives drug trafficking in other countries. What do you think happens to that demand at the point when you legalize all the drugs? We probably think it's going to increase. More on that later. Second of all, we don't think on opposition we have to support the stupid war on drugs. We don't have to support the war on drugs in its current form. I'm going to be explaining to you why military support is necessary to stop the ways in which cartels have risen in South America and that enforcement enforcement on the ground in the United States and other countries is necessary to stop the massive harms to drugs that opening government wants to talk about. A few points of rebuttal ahead of time. First, he tells us that drug addicts are not criminals, they're forced into this by circumstance. A single response. It is insufficient to tell us they're going to fund needle exchange programs without first telling us why they think that addicts would engage in behavior that solves their own addiction at the point when this is cyclic and self-devastating. We think what illegalization does is it provides us the mechanism for forced rehabilitation for their families, for their communities, and for them. Second, he tells us that there's a disparity in sentencing and that we illegalize some drugs more than others and mandatory minimums. We'll get rid of that. Second, he tells us we need to pay reparations to countries that have been harmed by the war on drugs, but then follows it up by saying cartels control almost every level of government. What do you think is going to happen to those reparations? We probably think they will be massively misused and destroy the very foundation of the efficacy that they want to talk about. So, why are we going to change? How are we going to change the war on drugs? And why has it been unsuccessful in the past? 4 things here. First, we are fine with decriminalizing homegrown and not hard drugs. So like, I don't know, we're in Colorado, so probably pot. Second, but on this, we're not fine with decriminalizing or legalizing hard drugs, heroin, meth, opioids, the kind of things that ruin lives and communities and families. Second, we say we will focus and remove the focus on punitive measures for possession, but instead change that to rehabilitation. We will keep the punitive measures for distributors. Third, we will get rid of the bias that currently exists. We think that's perfectly reasonable fiat power since they want to end the war on drugs entirely. Fourth, given that we want military aid in South American countries that have been ravaged and are currently controlled by cartels, we think that that military aid can be changed from its current form to provide resources to governments to combat it themselves, to provide arms and ammunition for those governments to combat it, and when necessary, to provide community-oriented military, boots-on-the-ground support so we can combat those cartels. With that in mind, 2 main arguments. First, why drugs are bad, why they destroy lives and ruin communities. Second, on South America and the producers of drugs, and why it gets massively worse at the point when you implement this policy. Opening.
Right. So the problem is that as long as there are a massive capital incentive for individuals that say it's illegal, so all the cash goes to cartels, they will go to war. They've been fighting literal armies in Mexico for decades, and it looks like a war zone. Why would military support from the United States not result in the same type of bloodshed we've been seeing?
So first, your side doesn't end the demand for drugs, it increases it. At that point, they are more incentivized to produce. Second of all, we want to stop with military action not only the existence of cartels, but their ability to flow and smuggle them across the border. That's how we reduce demand for these drugs, not increasing demand by legalizing them. Why are drugs bad? I'm going to engage with this point about people being punished for things they don't commit. For things that's not their fault. We don't support that. What we do support, however, is making sure their lives can be improved through rehabilitation. The important mechanism here is that drug addicts are self-defeating and rarely seek help themselves, even with outside circumstances. Why is this important? Because illegalizing it allows us the mechanism for forced rehabilitation. It does not matter how much money you put into rehabilitation programs if no one attends that. We would tell you that making drugs illegal gives the mechanism for police to enforce and help people to recover from their very own addiction. Second, we would say that it ruins others' lives, and at that point we are justified to step in. Right now, entire communities are being torn apart because of opioid addictions. Opening government would have you believe that legalizing opioids would help solve this problem. We would tell you the opposite is true for a few reasons. First, when you legalize it, you cannot stop the flow of drugs from A, coming into the countries and communities, but B, also being distributed within those communities. We would tell you that the mechanism for enforcement probably needs to exist if you want to stop the flow. So long as they exist, addicts will continue to seek them out because opioids and other such drugs are extraordinarily addicting. Meth ruins lives. Heroin ruins lives. We don't support that on our side of the house. There is no mechanism there at the point when you've legalized it. Sure.
The ability for drug dealers to exploit addicts is based on them being the only ones that can provide it. When we legalize it, why isn't it more likely that you take away the stigma and they go and seek treatment?
A few things. First of all, recognize that it's not clear to me. First of all, recognize that illicit drugs always be cheaper. At that point, you can try to regulate them, but at that point, you're still just banning drugs, which accrues all of those harms. Second of all, there's always going to be a stigma associated with being an addict that happens whether it's legal or illegal, because no one wants to be a meth addict. Okay, why South America and other producers of drugs get screwed over? A few things under this. First of all, recognize that even when legalized, even when they're sold by like productive distributors, two things happen. Illicit drugs are always cheaper to produce, and thus they will supply the majority of the supply. But second of all, there are already entrenched ways in which they smuggle and pretend those drugs are then licit. That's why in Colorado right now, marijuana produced in Mexico is being sold in dispensaries, even though its product is being, it's claimed to be being grown in Colorado. Why is this important? At the point when you legalize, you take away the incentive, or much of the incentive, for people not to use. This massively increases demand. This flows into all of the problems that we'd like to talk about with cartels. With more money, driven by more supply, by more drugs sold, they can entrench their hold on power and continue screwing over the Mexican people. And second of all, we would tell you that without the military support that the United States currently provides, there never can be a mechanism for stopping these cartels. Why? Because even if you agree that in the United States we can regulate the crap out of it, that's not true in every other country around the world where opening government wants to have this motion. At that point, you allow them to have entrenched holds on power that allow them to continue these cycles of oppression to every country within South America. Very proud to oppose.
Thank you, Speaker. Those remarks, and we now invite Deputy Prime Minister to continue the arguments on the government side. You're here.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Our case on opening government is simple. When you harm people who do not deserve the harm you visited upon them, and you only should harm people when they deserve it, you have an obligation to make right for that harm via some kind of reparation system. We've posited that there are two groups in this debate who you unjustifiably harm through the policies of the war on drugs. The first are people who live within your own countries who do not have control over the fact that they have become addicted to these drugs. I'll go into more specific arguments as to why they don't deserve it. But the second are the countries whose economies and governments have been ravished and destroyed by the fact that now those countries are the only suppliers of drugs. Countries like Guatemala, countries like Mexico, and El Salvador that are now massive producers of drugs. They don't engage with the principle that you can only punish people who deserve it. We think this is a fair one to hold, given that when you harming people just for the greater good of society justifies doing terrible things, particularly to minority groups in society, some of the most vulnerable people. So a couple of issues on this debate. First, as to like the whole why drugs are bad question, just extraneous revolve. Look, our argument is not that drugs are good. We actually don't think we meaningfully change the number of people who take these drugs because drugs are bad. Look, if heroin and like cocaine are such bad drugs, which we agree they are, then we don't think more people become addicted to them on our side of the house just because they're legal. We think lots of people become addicted to them in spite of their legality, and we don't think we make them massively more available. The next thing to say, though, is that like they say that we reduce demand, that they can reduce demand. I don't know how they reduce demand by just keeping up the war on drugs, given that it's ineffective. People can't deal with their own drug addiction. And the most important thing, though, is people can't seek out rehabilitation of the status quo meaningfully because these kinds of things are currently illegal. People are really afraid to admit that they have a drug problem because they think, especially the kinds of people who are addicted, because they know that they can get punished for it. The next thing that they say is that you can only improve people's lives through rehabilitation, and you only get rehabilitation only through the war on drugs. I think they have a bizarre conception of what the war on drugs does. The war on drugs does not go around finding people who are addicted to drugs, round them up, and stick them into rehab for their own betterment. It puts people in jail. It rips families apart. This is not, they don't get to caveat the war on drugs suddenly doesn't have any punitive measures. It only is rehabilitative. Also, even if it's partially rehabilitative, because those kinds of rehabilitation programs typically are underfunded, nobody cares about them because there's a conception that people deserve this harm you're visiting upon them. The next thing that they say is that you ruin other people's lives because you increase the amount of drugs that people take. Look, we don't think more people take drugs just because they're legal. We see this in empirically in Colorado and other states that legalize weed, the consumption numbers have gone up are relatively modest, say by 5%. We think that for weed is justifiable given that there are not any real long-term harms associated with its use. People know that these drugs ruin their lives. We think they take it anyway, largely because the factors that are outside of their control. We don't think we meaningfully change that for the people that they talk about. But the next thing that they want to say under this debate is that you can kind of get rid of all of the biases of the war on drugs, and they have this weird counter-modeling advocacy, but they don't engage with any real comparative of what the war on drugs looks like in any actual country. We think even if you could remove statutory biases of the war on drugs, see same penalties for the same kinds of drugs that all people use equally, you can't get rid of enforcement biases. You can't suddenly make it so police officers enforce all neighborhoods equally. They don't overly target low income people. Look, I think they just miss out on the majority of points of this debate. To go through, more specifically, why are these people who are addicted to drugs not culpable or not? Why are we not justified in harming them for their actions? We gave these three classes of reasons. The first is that the things that drive people to drug abuse are largely immutable characteristics about them that are out of their control. We told you that addiction is a disease that a lot of people have a genetic predisposition to that they cannot control. We also told you that this functionally criminalizes poverty at the point where a lot of people who end up with these conditions end up extremely poor. So that's one category, the immutable. But the next thing we told you is that these things are enforced in extremely discriminatory ways, so it's unjustifiable to have a policy that when two people do the same wrong thing, i.e. a white kid in a nice neighborhood does a little bit of weed versus a black kid in a poor neighborhood does a little bit of weed, it is wrong to go after the person just because they're in that neighborhood. That's what enforcement currently looks like. That's the reality they have to engage with. It is wrong to only put the harm on the person who happens to be in some arbitrary situation. Therefore, it is wrong to punish white people in a way that is discriminatory. The third thing I want to tell you is that the state is justified in punishing individuals for actions only when those actions directly harm others. We think that the decision to take drugs is largely a personal one that wrecks individual lives. It doesn't actually harm the rest of the people in society. If it is the case that people on drugs all do very evil things while they are high, we say hold them accountable for those things or deal with rehabilitation when they do things wrong. If they want to do rehabilitation programs, we're happy to have a policy where if you as a drug dealer do something awful like a DUI while under the influence, then we kick in the kind of rehabilitation programs that they talk about. But we're not happy to say that if the state has a right to tell individuals what they can do with things like marijuana and punish them disproportionately. But I think the next thing that we tell you that I think is important is about one of the third-party harms that this policy creates on Latin American countries that are largely responsible for the production of a lot of the drugs that people in places like the United States use. These places have been dominated by cartel-style violence. A government like Mexico has a hard time keeping control over large parts of the city. Why is it the case that cartels come out of the situation created by the war on drugs? First, because the war on drugs creates a condition where only certain people are able to supply. They're able to effectively corner the market. But when more suppliers are available, that means that not just cartels have access to this cash cow. It no longer becomes a cash cow for them anymore, which undermines their authority, legitimacy. They need mass amounts of capital in order to run. The next thing we can tell you, though, I think it fits into this cartel debate, is the question of whether the price somehow goes up or down. So they tell you it goes down. They tell you that the price somehow goes up because illegal drugs are less expensive. So fine, if that's the case, if the price goes up on our side of the house, that means maybe fewer people do it because they can't afford it. That's fine. But the worst case scenario, no, thank you, is that individuals don't take drugs, or the worst case scenario is that the price actually, I think more reasonably, goes down to the point where there are many more suppliers who can provide it, in which case you undermine the ability of any cartel's profitability from the sale of drugs, given that the price is now diluted. Look, I don't think they engage realistically with the debate. A couple of things we get in response. The first is that we don't address how we would actually help addicts. That we can't solve for that. Look, they don't solve for helping addicts on their side of the house either. So insofar as you buy any of the kind of reparation style policies that we're willing to do, be it needle exchange programs or voluntary rehabilitation programs or rehabilitation programs that go along with the rest of things while you happen to be under the influence that are also wrong, but I think we win on the marginal ability to help people. But also we say that we think we get more people who want to access drug rehabilitation when it's not literally illegal for them to engage in this behavior. You destigmatize the behavior at the point where you legalize it, so individuals are willing to come forward. The next thing that they say is that the money will be misused by the Latin American countries. You give it to, look, we're having to do it as loans or infrastructure or conditional on meeting certain things. Look, we harm individuals in our own countries, we harm people in other countries, because we have harmed them in an unjustifiable way, we owe them reparations. I think this debate is fairly simple. We're very proud to propose.
Those remarks will now write the new opposition community arguments on the opposite side.
debate on the idea we should not incarcerate innocent people. Here's the thing, we're on op. This isn't a regrets motion. We have op fiat power. We don't have to support racism. We don't have to support every bad element of the war on drugs. We have to support the idea that there should be a war on drugs because we think that there's a value in keeping really harmful substances decriminalized, especially because without doing so, we allow cartels free reign over already devastated regions that have been devastated by 3 decades of the bad policies that you talk about. So you can't just come up in here and say the war on drugs is bad, unequivocally racist in the status quo. Also, you have to defend it, engage with the counterprop Dan gave you. So 3 main points in this speech. First, I'm going to be talking about the actual, the legitimate reasons for the war on drugs and the reasons why we think that we can't get rid of any kind of punitive system completely. Then I'm going to be talking about our counterprop, just re-explaining how we restructure it and answering some of the points that we got from OG. And then I'm going to be getting into the counterfactual, what happens if all drugs are legal. Okay. Legitimate reasons for the war on drugs. Dan told you, and it was never responded to in this point, and that's unbelievably problematic in a debate like this, that when you make something legal, demand goes up. I don't think Gov can win this debate without countering that really basic principle. So there are a couple reasons why. The first one is really basic, just availability. The more available drugs are, the more widespread they are, and the big reason that we kind of cut off availability in the status quo is through criminalization, is through punitive measures. The more available they are, the more people are going to try it, the younger they are going to try it, the more likely they are to get addicted, right? And the second is deterrence. People don't do drugs because they don't want to go to jail sometimes. It's not perfect, but what we're proposing is a reform of the system that keeps that deterrent measure in place. So, what we would tell you is that we need to keep drugs illegal because without having drugs legal, you can't access any of the benefits of rehabilitation that the Prime Minister talked to you about that. Why? Because you don't have legal standing to force somebody into rehab unless what they are doing is illegal. Now, the only response we get to this is the idea that you can't force somebody into prison, or you can't force somebody into rehab, just like you can't force them into prison if they haven't done anything wrong. You need to do a lot more substantiation on this point if this is what you think you're going to win on. The thing is, we agree with the principle that you shouldn't punish somebody if they're innocent, but that doesn't mean the state can't take any action to try to improve your life, even if you haven't done anything wrong. We think the state has an interest in improving its citizens' lives. If your life is going to get better if you're forced to detox, we think that's good. But then also, we would say that it's not an insulated problem because drug use is self-perpetuating, right? It spreads throughout communities. So if your drug use puts other people who you are in contact with in danger, then the government has a valid interest in cutting that off in the beginning. Why won't they go to rehab if drugs are legal? 2 reasons. One is just because detox is terrible, right? People have a real, biologically inserted, instinct to try not to do this, and we think the state has a huge interest in usurping that. And then second is because there's a stigma. We don't think the stigma is because drugs are illegal. We think it's because drugs are stigmatized. We don't have any reason to believe that people won't want other people to know they're addicted to opioids, even if they become legal. We think the stigma is still going to exist, so we need to intercept these people, and the only way to do so is to create a legal mechanism. Next, where are the drugs coming from? This is a major point in this debate, because it's really important to note that the war on drugs, first of all, hasn't caused cartels. Cartels existed beforehand, it's just that they haven't adequately targeted them, and that it's been too regional. So we often cause a ballooning effect, whereas we target Mexico and then the cartels move to El Salvador or Guatemala. What we're proposing is a more comprehensive war on drugs that gets rid of this ballooning effect. But the thing is, the war is going to wage whether or not we are in it, right? There are wars that are going on in these countries. Even if drugs are legal, the cartels are still going to be perpetrating endless violence against the people of these countries, which is both a harm in and of itself, and just that living in a violently devastated region is really bad. And also, it's the reason for the economic devastation of these regions, because you can't build up an economy if people are constantly afraid when they leave their house they're going to be subject to cartel violence. Now, I can't imagine how on your side of the house you're going to get up here and tell us that you fixed the cartel problem without ever telling us how you're going to cut off the sourcing. If drugs are legal, first of all, we don't have any reason to believe domestic drugs are going to be cheaper, and so we don't have any reason to believe that the black market is going to decrease. If demand increases, we think that demand for cheaper drugs is going to increase also. That means that there's going to be increased demand for cartels of drugs, which means that all the impacts that we've been talking about in the countries where we source our drugs for, mainly Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, are going to dramatically increase. Now, we got a huge confusion on this issue as to whether or not prices are going to go down or up. Here's the thing. Domestic drug prices are probably going to be higher. We know this because of the places where marijuana is legalized. I think it's a pretty good model. We see higher costs just because, first of all, it's more expensive to produce drugs in accordance with regulations than it is to produce them, and also because labor is a lot more expensive here. So we think that those prices are going to be higher. The prices of illegal drugs are going to stay where they are, and then because demand increases, the demand for those illegal drugs is going to increase, and we have every reason to believe that the violence of cartels is going to get worse. So what was the counterprop? Dan told you that the problem with the war on drugs is not that it exists, but that it has been
too punitive and too racist. If we reform the racialized nature of the war on drugs by, first of all, proposing really prescriptive measures which prioritize rehabilitation and take away judge discretion, we think, and not do so in a way that makes black drug users, drugs used by black people punished more highly than drugs used by white people, we think that we get rid of a lot of those harms.
Illicit drugs have to internalize the cost of being transported over many borders or thousands of miles. Furthermore, even if it would be true, and it's marginally more expensive, people are likely to be willing to pay for the quality assurance and knowing that they won't die on fentanyl in their heroin.
Okay, so first of all, a couple things. One, that doesn't work in the, when you're talking about really addictive drugs. That's because addiction usurps your rational ability in a way that makes it impossible for you to engage in a really good cost calculus. So first of all, it devastates your economic ability to be able to afford more expensive drugs, and then it also devastates your ability to rationally assess what is best for you. In terms of things like marijuana, we would just say that we know this because of how it's formed. The regulations and the price of labor in the U.S. is such that it makes it impossible to keep up with cartel demand. So on to the counterfactual. First of all, we would say the counterfactual is that there's no enforcement against the black market sourcing. So even if it's the drugs are not going to be grown in the U.S., we have no reason to believe that it's going to be cheaper to grow drugs in the U.S., even though you have to transport it along borders. The cost barriers are just so much lower in these places. Demand is going to go up, and that's going to make cartels better. Even if it's legal, cartels already have an established monopoly on the market, which is incredibly hard to undercut once it already exists. So allowing them to funnel drugs is conceding defeat in this war, and that's really bad for a lot of reasons. The chiefest among them is because they murder a lot of people. But then even if, taking you at your best, what we would tell you is that what you're going to get is a situation in which you immediately cut off you don't change the sourcing, but you cut off the distribution networks that exist in the U.S., which is also bad to do in a shock. So as you told us in the PM speech, there are entire communities that depend on drug distribution for their only source of income because they've been cut off from traditional income supply. So we would tell you that we want to try to take away their user base in a slow and measured way, because we think that that's the only way to avoid the shock of initially taking away their entire income base, and the only way to do that is by intercepting drug users through rehab. So here's the thing: hard drugs are an incredible evil that do immense harm onto you as a person, and they can't win this debate without contending that. The issue with the current war on drugs is that users are considered evil instead of the drugs themselves. The solution is to change that around. We are so proud to
So now by the member of government to stand on the other side of this debate. You're here.
Richard Nixon launched the war on drugs in the 1970s. That was before BB debating even existed. This is a huge, long-term problem. And what we've heard so far is essentially a simplistic and short-term conception of how it's been. So what Alex and I are going to give you in our extension is a view of how we give structural economic transition to the areas most affected by the war on drugs, that is, the areas both in Latin America and impoverished communities in the US, how we improve their livelihoods in a systemic way, and therefore deal with the underlying problems that motivate drug use in the first place. A lot of the materials directly and implicitly respond to talking about in opposition. Some of us will come at the end when it does deal with all that. So the first thing to talk about is regions in Latin America. What we get out of OG is effectively that war and violence are caused by the war on drugs. That's very, very bad. By stopping that war and violence, we solve some problems. And that's absolutely true. But we also hear some fairly credible pushback from OO, who note that the hold that drug cartels have in the economy is still likely to be reasonably substantial given the demand that continues to exist. Alex and I are going to give you 3 reasons why an economic transition is going to happen in these regions, which means people live both more safe, more prosperous lives, either by continuing to grow plants that lead to producing drugs, or by transitioning away from doing that. 3 things. The first is about providing political accountability where currently does not exist. Note what happens right now. If I'm a drug farmer in Mexico or El Salvador growing cocoa or growing poppy seeds, and I want to report an abuse that happens to me as a result of a drug cartel to the local government, I would likely to be thrown in prison because of the war on drugs, because I'm doing something that is explicitly illegal. Beyond all of that, given that drug cartels have explicit incentive to cultivate extensive links with governments, given they have to do things like smuggling in order to get drugs to the US, that these governments are often heavily infiltrated by these drug cartels. Both of these incentives are cut off at the point at which you have legalized issues, you don't need to worry about smuggling, and also people feel free to report themselves to people within the government who they believe are credible, because they know they're unlikely to be reported. What this means is one of the main instruments of terror that drug cartels potentially have over the areas they afflict is simply lost. That's really important. Secondly, then, we say we provide the economic means of people to transition away from using drugs whatsoever. Look, in some situations it's possible a owner of a drug cartel, El Chapo, will come up to someone with a machine gun and say, you must grow this particular crop at this particular time for this particular reason. Ultimately that's a minority of cases. Most people, no thank you, are rational economic actors making an active decision to grow a particular drug because that's what they see as most profitable for them and their families. How do we change that? The reason why it is the most profitable is because right now, the US heavily subsidizes and heavily mechanizes agriculture, such that basically all food crops are very, very difficult to compete with, even when you account for the far lower labour costs in the region we're talking about. Note what we're doing. This policy is a massive wealth and capital transfer towards poor farmers in countries like Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador. What does that mean? They can now afford to do things like buy tractors. They can now afford to do things like buy GMO seeds. They can afford to do things that allow them to actively compete on the global market, no thank you, in a trade that isn't involved in the drug cartel in any kind of way. We want to talk about moving people away from these dangerous situations. That's how we access that benefit. Thirdly, and finally, what's also incredibly important to note is that under the status quo, all business and all profit that happens as a result of growing drugs in any of the countries we're talking about, which occupies a large sector of the rural economies, in many of these places, is untaxed and unregulated by the state. This is incredibly important for a number of reasons. Firstly, just the very ability to tax this means the state has a hell of a lot more ability to do things like help citizens, redistribute wealth, to do things like that. Beyond just that, if the state has no idea about what's happening in the economy, then it can't meaningfully gauge and alter economic policy in a way that effectively targets that. That's why in countries like Peru, there's such a focus on moving transitioning the economy away from the grey market, no thank you, towards something that's regulated and understood, because that's how you can get meaningful government and economic policy. Ultimately, the result of all of these things is pretty simple and pretty conclusive. What we do is we allow people to access economic advantage in communities which systemically have been unable to access those things. The result of that is that people are no longer kept under the iron grip of these drug cartels the way that we hear beforehand. We also stop that violence in an incredibly powerful way. We provide the structural reasons for the actual benefits that all sides of the debate want to claim in these communities where it will take place.
What do you think drug cartel leaders are likely to do when a farmer stops supplying them and starts supplying the different supply chains?
Okay, so we've seen this happen in a whole number of industries. This is what happened after prohibition. This is what happened when gambling was legalized. We see transitions towards more legal forms of producing these things. Look, ultimately, I don't think everyone involved in a drug cartel really wants to be a mass murderer and criminal. There are probably some people out there who do. A lot of them are just trying to make a living. We think it's fairly credible that when we change the incentives the way that we've laid out, we're likely to see that kind of change. The second thing I want to talk about is communities within the US, and ultimately the fact that there are lots of places within the US that have been ignored in this debate that are often in just as dire economic straits as the places outside that we've been talking about. And the reason for this is twofold. The reason for this is firstly that there's simply a lack of capital in these regions, which means businesses do not want to invest because they feel they're unlikely to make substantial amounts of money for any investment that they do make. The second reason is substantial over-policing means it's very, very hard for these communities to access rights in the same kinds of ways that others do. What do we change? Once again, it's been ignored by the so-called space that we do a substantial capital transfer towards these communities. As I say, we inject the capital that private enterprise isn't willing to do some of the poorest urban areas in America. What does this mean in real terms? People right now, note historically marginalized communities, often African Americans, given the rate of African American wealth is far, far lower than the rate of white wealth, now have capital in substantial quantities for the first time ever. What does this mean? This means that people can start small businesses. This means that people can start genuinely trying to improve their communities within, when capital from outside has been unable to do so. Couple this with the deterioration in terms of over-policing we've talked about so far, and what we see is a genuine economic transition in these communities away from what we've seen so far. This is genuinely transformative. Insofar, and I'll take you at the end of this point, insofar as many of the problems related to drug use are problems fundamentally related to structural poverty in these communities, what we can do is uniquely provide a route out of that. What we can do is uniquely provide a route whereby people can access the kinds of capital to start small businesses, improve their lives, improve their futures. Take care of that. Sure. So if cartels control every level of government, why is your money going to make it to them? And this isn't prohibition, they have machine guns. Okay, so the idea that everyone in the Mexican government that works for a drug cartel is genuinely ludicrous. There are both people who do work for drug cartels and people who do not. We give you reason to believe why those who do not will gain far more power under the status quo. That is our extension under our side. Hopefully that should be sufficient. Briefly, let's chat about Ross. Ultimately, most of O's case, we think, was basically just a run to the middle because they didn't want to deal with the brunt of this debate. There are two things about this that we think basically take their case out. The first thing is they claim that rehabilitation is the most important thing, can only be accessed from their side of the house. Reasonably well effectively dealt with by OG. One other thing to add. Non-consensual rehabilitation is very unlikely to work. Locking someone up and saying, you must rehabilitate right now, is very unlikely to cause any kind of change in people's long-term behavior. People have to believe that themselves if anything wants to happen. The second thing they say is, we want a comprehensive war on drugs. We're going to do this instead by providing capital and arms to the Mexican government, to the Guatemalan government, and so on. Newsflash, guys, this is status quo. This is what happens right now. Most of their change in terms of changing these communities is literally already what happens, at which point they're defending the broken and awful status quo that's failed people for far too long. Look, ultimately, Alex are providing the systemic economic analysis for why these communities are going to have their lives improved. We're incredibly proud to propose.
UCLA gang in El Salvador is one of the gangs that is fought by the war on drugs. Its influence in the country is so pervasive that it was able to shut down the entire bus system in the country last summer. The government was able to do nothing about it. The economy lost $60 million. What is important to note about the Usudc gang? They actually only make 20% of their profits off of drugs. The other 70% comes from extortion and other low-level crimes that will continue to exist in the country, irrespective of whether or not they can deal drugs. All that happens on their side of the house is that El Salvadoran government produces the only force that ever capable of fighting these gangs within their countries. Recognize that a lot of these gangs will continue to exist whether or not drugs are criminalized. What happens on your side is these governments use the only fighting force that they had that could combat these drugs, that can combat these gangs to begin with. That's going to be extension today, and we're also going to talk about why we get increased gang violence at home and abroad, and why that is so terrible. I'm going to engage with Russell after some time. Okay, so why do we think we get worse outcomes in Latin American states? We think we should weight this the most heavily, firstly because no one in Latin America, the vast majority of civilians did not consent at all to the way they were treated. There's also the most harm going on insofar as like majority of people cannot having terrible living conditions foisted upon them. Okay, so recognize that the majority of these gangs don't rely on drugs. For the biggest and most vicious gang, the primary source of revenue is other things. So as I told you, 18% gang, 7% income from extortion. While the Sinaloa, the Zika cartels get money from drugs and willing to concede that's a big part of their revenue, they also get a lot of revenue from like extortion, racketeering, prostitution, all of these sort of things. What we think this means is these gangs will continue to exist on either side of the house. The comparative on your side of the house is that the US is no longer sending in any sort of force or any sort of military aid that can ever fight these gangs, right? The state is not able to fight these gangs. The El Salvadoran government was not able to stop the shutdown of its buses over this summer. This means that there was no fighting force or like no assistance to the government which would ever help them fight the gangs that are taking over this country. What are the impacts of that? No, thank you. So firstly, we think that you're not able to have some infrastructure development they want to, the point at which people are too scared to defy the orders of the gang. Recognize that in the bus drive I'm talking about, no bus driver will drive because the gang says to kill them, right? That's what happens when you have this sort of state control. They don't need to be in the government in order to have massive control over what that government does. We also think that we also don't think you can get into a building that they want to at the point where there's still increased violence. Why do we think this gets worse on their side of the house, apart from the lack of policing? Because recognize that I think Archie is like, these farmers so recognize that we think that these gangs don't want to use their source of revenue to legitimate drug cartels, right? We think it's always really practical to go in places like Mexico for climatic reasons and also because it's far cheaper there. We also think cartels are likely to put pressure on farmers to distribute to them as opposed to distribute to legitimate means because it's a waste because they don't want to use their source of revenue. This is likely to increase violence and increase threat against these farmers, which has a massive effect on their quality of life. So thank you. Now let's talk about increasing gang violence. So everyone talks about how demand will go up and their revenue streams will increase. I'm going to talk about what happens if we take government their best and revenue streams don't increase. Okay, so recognize that lots of people who work in the drug trade cannot work in other industries, particularly in America or also in other countries. Why is this? They have this education. Often people members of the MS-13, they've been significantly tattooed, so obviously they've been in gangs. And given the massive stigmatization of gang members at home and abroad, they are struggling to find other work, right? Or often those aren't other jobs for them to take. So what happens when you decrease the amount of money that these people can make, and they have other avenues? They start fighting over who gets that money because they still need it to live, but there's far less of it, right? This means you get far more infighting among gangs and far more gang violence as gang members of different factions of gangs fight with one another in order to try and maximize the share of the pie they have. Like, this is just empirically true in history, right? Recognize that in 2011, when the Mexican government tried to start policing drugs more heavily, it led to one of the most violent drug wars in history between the Zetas and the Sonoras, which cost hundreds of thousands of lives, and areas of Mexico are still recovering from, right? So thank you. So we think you get increased violence in Latin America, which also stops the sort of business development. CG wants to tell you what happened, right? Because you can start a business if there's increased gang violence. We also think this disproportionately harms minorities. OT wants to tell you that they're possibly help. The increased gang violence, particularly in the West, will happen in disproportionately minority areas because it's where these gangs had a hold previously, right? You get decreased policing in these regions because police don't want to go in and get killed. But also we think you decrease sympathy, right? Because at the point where people blame drugs and they blame the legalization of drugs, the increased violence that they're seeing on the street, they're likely to want to penalise. They likely to have less sympathy for drug addicts, people who are involved in drugs, which means you get fewer long-term programs to try and help the recovery of these people. Before I go on, keep going.
Right. No one knows the actual violence these gangs at 20% numbers from thin air. Calle 18 thrives in the economic starvation your side leaves them in because the people in control want them to continue to produce either basically agricultural goods or other goods that are based in the exact same form of labor.
To respond to this is just to me a backlash that someone who couldn't believe in you of them. Recognise that you have like significant data on how these gangs operate. It is true that the majority of them have like significant other resources. Like I can't prove that to you, but it's empirically true. But secondly, we think that like given that cartels like have influence pressure things, this just bites into my analysis why you think that you're going to get pressure to continue to distribute good equal channels. Okay, so now let's have a look at now let's do some more background. So the big thing that we get out of OT is like you should give some people something if they deserve it. And we don't think that dictates what you should give them, right? We think if like what you're going to give them is going to make their life significantly worse, then that shouldn't be what you're giving them. And just because they deserve reparations does not mean they deserve this. So if you give them the harms on the opposition side, that means you vote for side opposition. So then they were like, drug addiction is dictated by arbitrary characteristics. Just because something arbitrary characteristics means something more likely does not mean that you absorb the consequences of engaging in that action. For example, if you're depressed, it's harder for you to do general things like day-to-day functioning, right? Because it's harder for you to take care of your children. That does not mean if you like neglect your children, you do a bad job, you do not suffer the consequences of it. Recognize that predisposition is not the same as absolute no controlling decisions. We don't think you have a degree of controlling decisions, and so therefore we think that people still make the choice to do drugs at the end of the day, right? Then they were like, drug demand will equals. Okay, look, once of all, let me explain to you why we think drug consumption will increase. This means that you get all the terrible harms that OG wants to tell you was so severe when people take drugs. Like, right now it's like, now you're giving companies a profit incentive to market drugs to people and to try to work very, very hard to sell drugs to people. And we don't think it really matters when things are bad. Look how well cigarettes still manage to do in the majority of the world, even though people know that they're going to be dangerous. This is because these companies have massive incentives for a lot of money to decide on what demographics they're going to target and they're going to target their marketing at. We think the demographics they're going to target their marketing at are primarily minorities, people in low-income communities, right? Because we think that there's a history of drug consumption in these areas, and B because people and maybe because it seems like a sort of escape, right? So we think that so we think that when you give companies a profit incentive, there's really more marketing and more people will try it. We also need to get more normalization, so less people are going to think it's a bad thing to do if everybody around you is doing it, right? We think that when something seems more normal and everyone is doing it, just more likely to do it as well, that leads to escalation, right? And then we think that at the point at which you have companies that rely on drugs, we're likely to get extensive lobbying of federal governments, regulate any sort of anti-drug consumption campaigns. We think that the point at which you have problems and addiction, they're going to lobby the government to try and decrease any sort of programming that combats addiction long term. You get worse outcomes for the people, including how to oppose.
Now fighting over the whip when you have the entire government side here.
Thank you, panel. I want to speak about a couple of things in closing this debate. Firstly, I want to speak about the case that Archie brought you, about empowering communities and actually changing the way in which economic structures exist, which was massively undercovered by their side of the house, specifically talking about when we have a massive wealth transfer to African Americans within America and to poor people within Mexico. What does that look like for them when they can start businesses and have opportunities that they didn't before? That's the first thing I want to address. Secondly, I'm going to address individual drug safety, and lastly, look at just some of the stances that we're taking in opposition and how we want to do this. So beginning with Archie's point, he gave you a couple of reasons why we get an economic transition under our side of the house. Talked to you about political accountability, better economic means of transition, and lastly, how under the status quo this is disincentivized. The only response we get to this is from closing opposition when they say, well, this you won't actually see investment because it's still dangerous and there's deterrence there. This doesn't respond to our case, because our case doesn't rely on international investors deciding to invest in Mexico. What it means then is when Mexican farmers now have more money, they're able to compete with the U.S. So Archie tells you specifically that U.S. subsidies for agriculture mean that simply on an economic scale, it doesn't make sense to try and compete in other forms of agriculture because you just can't do that. When you give them money, that means that they can buy things like tractors, they're better able to compete. I think very few people actually want to be within the illegal drug trade, given the fact that these cartels oftentimes are present and don't actually give these people the best possible right trade. They want to leave, and the important key here is our side actually gives them the ability to leave, because opposition talks to us about the oppressive force that these drug cartels face. The reason why they're able to continue to be an oppressive force isn't because they literally have a gun to every single person's head, but because these people have no meaningful alternatives. When we give them money, when they can literally leave to a safer area of the country or just leave the country as a whole, what that means then is that situation improves for them. Furthermore, I think this has an issue in terms of transnational issues from moving from place to place. So the main reason why so many people within America are discriminatory and don't like policies that let people come in is because you paint everyone within Mexico as somebody who's within the illicit drug trade and dangerous. When we change that narrative by saying, no, this is no longer illegal, these people are oftentimes oppressed, you allow that movement for them into that country, and that's particularly important. We massively benefit the poor within these areas, and that's a massive benefit that they haven't dealt with. The reason why this is so important is because, as we identify for you, opening government does a good job of talking about the immediate benefits, that is to say, not locking people up. Within the long term, the reason why we have the best form of reparation is because when you take something, when you have laws, for instance, that discriminate against people, you're not just taking money away from them, but you're taking away the agency and the ability for them to live their lives in a way that's meaningful to them. We give that back to people when we have a capital transfer to them that lets them build those lives for themselves. That's how you should view the principle. I now want to speak briefly about the stance that opening opposition takes, and I want to clarify that and talk about what opposition necessarily has to do that. Because they run to the middle here by saying, we're going to decriminalize soft drugs, but not hard drugs, and we want some military intervention, but they don't give us necessarily a scale of when that's likely to happen. So the biggest issues, the source of the issues that all of us are talking about in this debate, don't come when people grow marijuana. They come, like Archie told me, when people grow poppy seeds and cocoa. So these are the issues we're talking about. The types of military interventions that these guys are likely to see then are in the worst areas against the largest drug lords, which means that you're likely to see conflict on their side of the house. The question then is, only we can actually stop that. I want to speak then, thank you, about the case that we got from closing opposition and broadly speaking refute them. We get an interesting conception where they say gangs aren't necessarily reliant on drug money, but on other things. A couple things to note here. First, even if this exists, this ignores the large majority of gangs for whom drug money is a large issue, right? The reason why these gangs do exist is because you need to be very, very, very large to have multiple operations outside the realm of drugs. Oftentimes, given how widespread this is geographically, we do shut out many smaller, like mid-sized dealers that we think we get. But here's the issue here, right? They talk about gangs relying on extortion and issues there. They talk about the pressures that cartels face. Here's reputation to that. The reason why these guys don't get any benefits is because these people are unwilling to cooperate with the police. The reason they're unwilling to cooperate with the police, in their best case scenario where there's a diversity of criminal networks, is because they fear for their lives and they feel that they'll be thrown in jail if they cooperate. What this looks like on our side of the house then, even these people are still coerced to grow drugs and sell them to the drug dealers, is now it's no longer illegal for them to call the police, interact with them, and say, here's what I know. The reason why this information is so important is because oftentimes these local farmers do have a lot of information. They have names in terms of contacts, in terms of who they sell to. They understand how supply chains work. This is crucial information that police need to effectively crack down on drugs that we can only get on our side of the house when you decriminalize the very hardest drugs that opening opposition doesn't actually want to do. The reason why this is a unique benefit to us is if we do buy along opposition that some level of extra scrutiny is needed, only we can get that when we have the cooperation of people on the ground. That's how you should do that. They, lastly, want to talk about issues of gang violence and why we get more violence on their side of the house. The reason why these guys have violence under their side of the house is because drug cartels are able to use the rhetoric of actually protecting these people. They're able to use the rhetoric of protecting the farmers when they're under their control. When the state now becomes the one that's protecting you, you can now rely on the state in ways that you wouldn't before. So that violence between them actually decreases, and that's important. I'll take it over.
Sure. So not everyone has a gun to their head in the cartels, but some people do. In that case, should we intervene and stop that?
Sorry, can you repeat the first part?
Not everyone has a gun to their head. Some people do. Should we stop that?
I mean, I don't see why we don't intervene here, right? What we're saying on our side of the house is you don't militarily intervene, but we create the incentives for that to stop, and we mean that people can now go to the states and do what they do. The final thing I want to speak about then is individual drug use and safety. This is largely the debate in the opening, but extends into closing. Opening opposition tells us that drugs are harmful as supplies will increase and you harm communities. Opening government responds to this by saying, no, people will be willing to pay higher prices for clean drugs, and people will want to do that simply because there's a stigma against it. We POI the issue of scarcity. That is to say, the reason why people are oftentimes able to be held captive by drug dealers is because they're the only ones that can provide them with the drugs. This isn't just an issue of drugs, but when you're addicted to that, what that means is you're under that person's control, because literally on a physical level, you feel like you can't function if you don't work with them. The problem here then, and we're talking specifically about places in the US, is this allows for things like organized crime and turf wars, where gangs have have specific areas that they want to protect because it's more lucrative. We get rid of that when you increase the supply and you move that away. The reason why we're better for communities then is because oftentimes youth that grow up in these communities don't see any meaningful alternative aside from joining these gangs that have control, power, and do that. We massively shift that when we say it's now no longer legal, you should. I think Archie also wins the rehabilitation debate, responding to open opposition, when they talk about we need to forcibly rehabilitate people. Forcible rehabilitation is an extremely ineffective way of rehabilitating people, and we think the more important thing then, especially going forward in the future, is making sure that people have the economic viability to mean that they don't fall into cycles of crimes and of drugs. Only closing the government gives you the specific mechanism of a wealth transfer that means that people can leave certain areas and start businesses, which means that in the long term, you stop the drug trade and improve their lives in very practical terms.
And the entire debate here.
Pretty good. This debate wasn't about rehabilitation or needle exchanges. Both sides of the House are very happy to fund. Both sides of the House have substantial political capital to fund, because I can think of no person more deserving and more receiving the political respect of the status quo than someone trying to recover on the rocky road from addiction. It is not about the basic things we can provide to people who are addicted. It's about two things. Firstly, what the developing world needs more, given the explicit comparative opposition sets up. One-time cash transfers, or root and branch reform that involves agents of the American state cooperating with agents of the South American states involved to remove gangs that systematically harm individuals there. And secondly, whether US citizens should have unmitigated access both to drugs produced there and domestically, given that both sides are quite happy to legalize domestic weed. They had to take a much stronger burden than just talking to you about the obvious benefits for their side. I want to talk about those two issues sequentially. Firstly, on the developing world. We think this should be the controlling issue of the round, given Gov give us many reasons to believe we should care about the plight of Mexicans, Hondurans, and El Salvadorians disproportionately more, given that the impact that any policy has on them, given their substantially lower social position in the status quo, is going to be greater. On this point, therefore, the analytical shallowness of GovBench is gobsmacking. When drugs are illegal, the market is cornered, says the DPM in an interesting Eco 101 argument. When you legalize drugs, something, the cartels mysteriously fall away overnight, and people can free market sell drugs directly to citizens of Colorado. I really don't need to rebut this insofar as there never was an argument for me to deconstruct in the first place. OO says cartels are entrenched. True, CG. This is not true in Mexico City. It is true in the rural heartlands where drugs are produced and sold, and presumably where this debate is relevant. Bobby tells you, sure, Alex, there are the occasional one-time Mexican drug dealers who make their money from selling drugs, but the most dangerous, most entrenched cartels, one, make most of their money from extortion, so won't go away on your side of the house even if they use the drug revenue, but secondly, control all local infrastructure because the governments are too incompetent or poor to do it themselves. That's the way they perpetuate their long-term strength of agricultural communities, which is threatening to cut off their welfare and means you can't replace them overnight by sending a $50 million check to the Mexican Prime Minister. So, what happens in their free market world? If David flies from Austin to Bogota and tries to strike up a deal with an individual drug seller without talking to the FARC, I posit the FARC will find that drug dealer, cut off his head, place it in a big bag, and mail it to Austin, Texas. We know this because the FARC did this to residents of Colombia and South America for the 25 years that have happened prior to this day. If the US wants to build infrastructure without the FARC, I suspect they will slaughter any builders who try and set up bridges in the areas that are concerned, because they literally police the surrounding area. CT's response here is laughable. Prohibition happened. Note, prohibition was accompanied by some of the largest civil society raids in history to break down and systematically deconstruct the illegal production and distribution of alcohol that was otherwise strangling the ability of legitimate domestic industries to exist, something their side is never willing to do. Mexico, to respond to this laughable CG point about building up agribusiness, can never compete with Monsanto and the most efficient and subsidized agricultural mechanism in the world. A $250 million check will not change that on their side of the house. And now you have two options rather than one. Also, agriculture is a dire industry to put Mexico into, insofar as America could increase subsidies overnight and Mexico's entire industry collapses, much better support export-led manufacturing growth, which is what they do in status quo, no thanks to Gov Bench. So, what can our side do? OO tells you in general they'll make the military do things better. Specifically, we told you that there'd be extensive military infrastructure capable of reporting without fear. Because when the only people you can report to are the corrupt local government or the warlords who will kill you, I suspect having a military figure who is prepared to defend your house might make you more willing to talk up the kinds of abuses that CG talked to you about. But also the ability to replace gang infrastructure and welfare, root and branch, by having the military systematically hand out those kinds of resources. Something that cash on their side can never substitute for. The political economic capital is finally coming into the developing world of South America insofar as manufacturing growth has created genuine economic productivity for them in their urban areas. What that means is the governments are reaching a threshold level of stability. They are capable of working with American military forces to install real infrastructure. But at the point when you just claim that they're very weakly developed infrastructural projects, all they need is a cash injection to make that happen. You entrench exactly the kind of miserable gang communities that lead to violent fighting and the systematic extraction of wealth to elites at the top of the chain in the communities that are most desperately off. The problem their side isn't just that this destroys the communities they claim to carry. It also shows that cash transfers to the developing world are wasteful and makes the totemic industry of Mexico a drug dealer, which I suspect will not weigh well on the minds of Trump voters when they're considering whether to continue allowing refugees from the drug trade of South America. Specifically, therefore, we told you again that the future harms in the way that these people are perceived and the likelihood of them being able to flee the miserable circumstances that will occur on either side are substantially weaker on their side than our side. We are very clearly winning on this exceptionally important argument. Before that, opening.
If Monsanto is so good at producing agricultural goods, then why won't they be able to produce the agriculture of producing drugs at a price that is lower than anything else that these South American countries could, as a result of producing all the capital flow that you're so concerned about?
So they would do it in America because America has much more sophisticated infrastructure, and you already told us the transport costs are quite expensive. If they tried to do it in the agricultural communities of South America, they would all be killed. So let's talk about the domestic world now. OO does a pretty good job of demonstrating that the somewhat interesting argument from OG that drug sellers know aren't exactly innocents out of Les Miserables, right? The idea that if you're pushing people into misery, you are somehow exempt because you also were poor seems ludicrous to me, given you're pushing lots of other poor people into addiction and destroyed lives. But we give you specific reasons these harms matter. Firstly, that on their side you can consume anything from heroin to PCP, which literally makes you think your face is made of paper mache and you want to rip it off, in unlimited quantities, both because the prices go down with drugs and because lobbying and marketing goes up, cutting against the rehabilitation and prevention efforts they talked to you about, an argument we gave you and wasn't responded to, which wreaks harms on these people themselves and their unconsenting families and social communities that are more ripped apart on their side than on ours. Even if our programs are largely less effective, they get far more people addicted and worse in the first place. Secondly, even if the quantity stays the same, what we tells you, and it is not responded to, the domestic distributors are likely to break into violent infighting when their revenue streams decline by 2/3, which means you lose all public sympathy for people addicted to drugs because the fact that drugs have been legalized is associated with the massive violence occurring on the streets of Los Angeles, killing tens of thousands of vulnerable people. Thirdly, you encourage domestic dealers to produce dangerous or stronger strains of drugs to make up for demand and push them directly to the most vulnerable addicts. Another argument given to you from MO that isn't meaningfully responded to and soundly beats their arguments for how drugs will be notionally safer on their side of the house. They ignored the entire MO speech, and my God, they're going to regret it. Proud to oppose.